Well, this fight between Donald Trump and the Khan family has been spinning out over the last 4 days. A huge number of people have been piling on the candidate. But now there's a new letter that's gone viral from a combat vet questioning Mr. Khan's remarks and his defense of Democrats. He writes in part, quote, "Does it matter whether Mr. Trump has sacrificed nothing and no one?" That's a quote from Mr. Khan. "Has Mrs. Clinton sacrificed for this nation? How about Mr. Obama?" He goes on, "As a father, I cannot imagine the pain you must feel." This is to Mr. Khan. "But his sacrifice," meaning Khan's son, "is his own. He was not forced to serve." The man behind that letter joins us now. Chris Mark served as a U.S. Marine and Navy officer. He was also a scout and a sniper who deployed overseas. And Howie Kurtz is here, too. He's been following the media aspect of this. Great to see you both, Chris. So
Thank you,
that's an interesting point, because Mr. Khan wanted to know if Donald Trump had sacrificed. And Trump came out and said, you know, I've sacrificed plenty. I've worked hard. And, man, did he get hit for answering the question that was posed. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I thought it was a bit exploitive of him to say that, and simply being there, and and forgive me for saying this, but kind of bringing his son, who by all accounts is a true American hero. I mean, nobody is ever disputing that, into this political debate. There are only two criteria to be president in the United States: you be a U.S. citizen and 35 years old. So I have a little bit of I take exception with the fact when people say, what have you sacrificed? The fact whether or not you have or have not sacrificed in defense of this nation doesn't imbue you with any additional privileges, and that's really what compelled this blog post.
Mm-hmm. And you talk in your open letter about you feel that he was paraded, that Mr. and Mrs. Khan were paraded on the stage by Democrats. What do you mean by that? Because, I think they would respond by saying, we wanted to be there, we object to Donald Trump and his presidency,
Sure.
and we wanted our voices heard.
Yeah, and, let me be honest, Megan, after watching the Khans again and rereading his comments without the context of them being at the DNC and without all the fanfare and the emotion and everything, I would like to kind of revise that statement. I think that they did that. They had an objective, but I don't think they were necessarily paraded any longer. And again, I had to, review my comments without the context of them being in the DNC. Again, I think it was either exploitive on the part of the DNC to put them out there. And again, if you look at Mrs. Smith from the RNC, she was taken to task for going out and talking about her son dying in Benghazi. And it seems like the Khans are being treated a bit differently. So it's either exploitive on the DNC's part,
where I want to pick it up with Howie.
Or I think it's a little bit opportunistic.
Do you think there's been a difference, Howie? Does the coverage prove that there's been a difference between the media's reaction to Pat Smith, mother of a Benghazi victim, and to the Khans?
Absolutely, it is not even close. And by the way, they both committed political acts by speaking at political conventions, and they both spoke from the heart, and I respect their right to speak out on behalf of their fallen sons. But if you look at the media coverage, and yes, Donald Trump fueled it in the case of Khizr Khan by criticizing the family, but even before he said a word, the media rocket fuel, embracing the Khan message almost as their own. Front page of the New York Times, putting him on Meet the Press, on the Today Show, all over cable, showed that that Khan's message and his accusation against Trump as an anti-Muslim bigot had a resonance from most of the mainstream media that Patricia Smith's very heartfelt comments in Cleveland did not.
And what do you think the reason for that is?
I think, when you strip it all away, and yes, Patricia Smith had made this point in interviews many times, so she wasn't breaking news, and there are mitigating factors. When you really come down to it, I think the consensus in the mainstream media is that Patricia Smith was being unfair in personally blaming Hillary Clinton for the death of her son, and that Khizr Khan, while not blaming, obviously, Trump for what happened during the Iraq War, was speaking for many Americans who don't like Trump's proposed temporary ban on Muslim immigrants.
But her
and so it just had more resonance.
Personal. I mean, she is alleging that she was lied to directly about her son's death by Hillary Clinton. The Khan family's just objecting to Donald Trump's policies and his statements. They're not alleging a dishonest personal interaction with the casket of their son steps away, that's why we put Pat Smith on the air, and you can think whatever you want about Pat Smith or Mr. and Mrs. Khan, but they were given a platform. We invited the Khan family on here. So far, no luck, but they've been all over media, and hopefully they'll come here eventually. It's great to see you both.
Thanks, Megan.